Greetings, fellow bridge lovers, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am lucky enough to be joined by the wonderful Kevin Rosenberg, who is going to be talking about this hand that he played in a local sectional, and it has a very, very interesting line to it. We're going to go through the line that he played and then the line that he found afterward. First, we're going to take a look at the auction that got us here. So we end up in 6 diamonds. If there's anything that you want to mention about the auction that you think is important to our card play, that might be good.
Basically, the thing to note, I guess, is that East was a passed hand and overcalled 2 clubs after being a passed hand. So we know they've got at least 5 clubs, maybe 6, and probably some values to overcall, but not enough values to open the bidding.
Right. And then we have a constructive auction that continues on to 6 diamonds, and we get the Queen of Clubs lead.
Yeah, so I thought when I was playing this hand, this was a pretty hard hand to plan to play to get up to 12 tricks. In terms of losers, none in clubs, none in spades, 1 potential heart loser. I could maybe take a heart finesse in some lines to avoid that. And 1 potential diamond loser, which again, I might just cash the ace king or I could finesse somebody. But also very important to count winners, like what 12 tricks are we going to try to take? And since I had this spade suit in dummy, my immediate thoughts were I could either try to set up spades, maybe rough out the king, or rough 3 spades even to set up the 5th spade. But also, since I have shortness in both hands, I also had a thought that maybe the hand could just be played on a cross rough, roughing clubs in the north hand and spades in the south hand.
That's the first thing that came to my mind too, because my brain just immediately goes to cross roughs. It's just fine-tuned to cross roughs. You're thinking kind of like rough a diamond, rough a spade. That doesn't necessarily get us to enough tricks on its own though, right?
Yeah, we'd have to rough. Like, my first thought was, what if I just take the ace of spades, the ace king of hearts? I mean, I'd rough this trick, obviously, but
Right.
yeah, for my 12 tricks, I was thinking I could take the ace of spades as 1, the ace king of hearts are, yeah, two more. So that takes us up to 3 tricks outside of trump. And then potentially, since I started with 5 trumps in dummy, if I could just cross rough all the rest of my clubs and spades, like roughing 4 more spades in my hand. So the approach I actually took was either maybe hoping to rough out the king third of spades, but my general plan that I ended up going with was trying to play on a cross rough. So I'd have to rough 4 spades in my hand and or clubs in dummy. I don't really need to rough a 5th thing in dummy, because if I can rough 4 things in dummy, then the king of diamonds will be high. I just need to rough 4 spades in my hand, 4 clubs in dummy, and then the last diamond in dummy will be high. So that would get me 9 trump tricks. And I was hoping to take the ace king of hearts and the ace of spades. One thing for technique on cross rough hands that's generally important is you usually want to cash your side suit winners before you embark on a cross rough.
Right.
Because if you start roughing all these spades, especially like the last spade, which you're going to rough with the ace of diamonds, when both opponents will probably be discarding, you don't want them to discard one of their small hearts, and now later when you try to cash your 2 hearts, they can rough it with their trumps.
Right.
So I think what I did first is, yeah, I played ace of spades and trumped a spade. Yeah. And then at this point, I decided to just cash the 2 hearts. I played heart to the ace. And heart, and it went 10. Yeah, I let a heart, and it went 10, but I didn't want to finesse. I played the king. And now I trumped a club. And I didn't say this, by the way, but one of the things I really liked about the cross rough line originally is I knew all my club roughs were always going to live, because I knew East had long clubs. So I was never worried about getting over roughed in clubs. And since my trump spots are pretty good, especially the king 10-9 of diamonds there, I wasn't worried about them roughing in on the clubs. So the club roughs I was totally secure with. My issue was the spade roughs. I knew I could rough the last spade with the ace of diamonds, but I wasn't sure about the 4th spade rough. I kind of wanted my lefty to have at least 4 spades, and then it seemed like I would be okay.
Exactly. And from the bidding, like, that doesn't seem all that improbable. I mean, if East has a long club suit, what's the likelihood that they also have long spades?
That was sort of my hope. So at this point, I roughed a spade. And I hadn't seen the king. And at this point, I was already starting to realize that maybe I had not done the right thing, because I started thinking about it at this point while I was playing it, and I realized East probably has the king of spades.
Right.
Because they overcalled 2 clubs, and it seems like they don't have the queen or jack of clubs from the queen of clubs lead. So I kind of was hoping the king of spades would have already just dropped and my spades and dummy would be good, but that had not happened. Or I would just keep cross-ruffing, but West would have to follow to the 4th spade.
Right.
I was already worried here, so now I roughed the club.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could have done anything different at this point.
Yeah,
I just needed to hope.
It feels very over.
So now I played a spade hoping East would show out, but as I thought they might, they played the king.
Right.
And now I counted East shape. It looked like they had 4 spades, and since West had like played the jack of clubs and East overcalled on a weak suit, they probably had 6 clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And they played 2 hearts already. So I was pretty sure at this point they were 4-2-1-6. 4 spades, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. I think at this point, in order to make it, I needed East to have the singleton queen of diamonds. Then I could still succeed by just roughing with the jack here because I wouldn't get over roughed.
Right. And then you could just continue to cross rough.
I did rough with the jack of diamonds and I got over roughed.
And then they have a heart to cash. And then you're down.
Actually, they even made a better play because they returned a trump immediately and I had to go down 2. But
oh my. So if before they cash the queen of hearts, the better play is to exit a trump because now you have...
Yeah, I can't even make my spade in dummy.
Oh my gosh.
They cash the queen of hearts first.
Uh-huh.
And then return a trump. The problem is now I can cash the jack of hearts.
Right. But when they don't cash the queen of hearts first, now you don't have a winner to cash, and you're tapped out, and they're able to rough and play another heart high like this. Interesting.
Yeah. So they did actually put me down 2 here. Yeah, this is what happened. So, and then they roughed my spade.
Yeah. Wow, that's an ouch. But there is a way to make it. When Kevin first explained this line to me, I was like completely flabbergasted. Like, this is insane. You should have seen the reaction on my face. It was just like complete jaw drop. So if we go back to the start of the card play, how does your line go?
Well, first of all, one improvement I could suggest on what I did at the table, which I'm disappointed that I didn't do, is when I led ace of spades at trick 2 and roughed the spade, I think it's a really important technique, especially when you're not always playing against, world-class players. I should have led the 10 of spades from the dummy, just to see if East did have king jack 4th of spades, maybe they'll cover the 10 with the jack.
Right.
And maybe this will end up being helpful if I can set up my spades without having to rough 3 of them or whatever. So just as a general technique thing, I think I should have led the 10 of spades to coax them to cover it with the jack.
Right, because if they cover it with the jack, now you have a marked roughing finesse.
Semi-marked.
Semi-marked.
Yeah.
It's not completely there, but it could be.
I'm not sure if that even would have helped me make it on the actual hand, because once I commit to cross-roughing, it might not even help me that much if my spades are high.
Right.
But I think I definitely should have led the 10 of spades, and that's just something I wanted to point out. So let's say I lead the 10 of spades and they don't cover it,
right?
Which is a good play because I'm probably not intending to run this 10 of spades,
right?
So I think the best line combines this idea of roughing spades and playing for a cross rough, but also caters to the idea that East might have 4 spades, and it especially assumes that East is likely to have the king of spades. So let's say I don't necessarily have to cash 2 hearts,
right?
So let's say I rough the 10 of spades. I rough a club. I rough another spade. And if the king dropped here, maybe I could use the fact that the spades are high, but it's probably even simpler to now just cash 2 hearts. Like if East had showed up with the king here, so I was convinced West had 4 spades, then I could cash 2 hearts and then finish my cross rough like I originally intended. If this happens, now it looks more like East has the 4th spade. And there's a lot of worry at this point to me that I'm going to get over roughed on the next spade rough.
Right.
And it also means that East does not have a lot of red cards, because if I think they have 4 spades and 6 clubs, it looks like either the queen of hearts is dropping doubleton or the heart finesse is offside.
Okay.
I expect East shape to be something like 4-2-1-6. So if the Queen of Hearts is doubleton, I might be okay. But I want to also keep my King Jack of Hearts to potentially end play West if they have the Queen of Hearts. Also, if I think East has a singleton diamond, that means West is much more likely to have the Queen of Diamonds.
Right.
So I think if I'd got to this position, I think what the best line was is to cross to the Ace of Hearts, but not cash a second heart, and lead the spade. Again, still here, if East had showed out, then there's various lines to consider. If they show out and pitch a heart, that's still pretty revealing, and I could maybe switch my plan if I think they just pitched their last heart. So I don't think all is lost in any way if they do show out. But if, as expected here, they play the king, now I think I should rough this with the Ace of Diamonds because I can't stand to be over rough. I probably at this point need to take the diamond finesse. If the hand is what we think the hand is, where East again has a stiff diamond and one heart left, if I play, for instance, like a diamond to the king and the 10 of diamonds, I'm going to get tapped out. West could win the Queen of Diamonds from Queen third. They could play their last club, forcing dummy to rough, and they would still have a trump trick. They would also still maybe take a heart trick. So I need to run the Jack of Diamonds at this point. Yeah. And if that wins, if it loses to the queen, I'm going to go down. But it's most likely to win because trumps are most likely to be West having 3 and East having 1. Now I can trump a club, which eliminates West's last club. I actually let West have more trump than me, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I've come down to only 1 trump in dummy, and West still has 2 trump. But I've put them down to 2 hearts and 2 diamonds. So now I cash the King of Diamonds. And if trump happened to be 2-2, like I would be fine at this point. That would probably mean East started with a stiff heart. But if I was lucky enough that West had queen doubleton of diamonds, like I've taken this finesse and now I just dropped their queen, I could now just cash the queen of spades, and because neither opponent would have trump left.
Right.
But if, as expected, West still has a high trump, I can still just play the queen of spades, the winning queen of spades, and discard my losing king of clubs. And they can rough it, but now because we knew their shape, their last 2 cards here are going to be hearts.
And they must lead away a heart.
Yeah, and it's particularly nice if they have the queen of hearts that they have to lead away from it.
And then
played.
And then making. And of course they could not rough it, but then you win your queen of spades, and then you can win the king of hearts, and then you've made it. So, dang. There are so many things that happen on this hand. Like, you roughed with the ace of diamonds, and then took a finesse, and then you let them have more trump than you, and then you end played them. So it, like, kind of defies so many beginner rules that we are taught. It's like, don't let them have more trump than you. Rough low if you can. Well, of course you couldn't rough low here, but there were a lot of things on this one, and it was absolutely amazing to hear. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's good to start hands with principles. Like, I recognize that it was a cross rough hand, and I tried to follow the principles of cashing winners before embarking on the cross rough. And then I think the next level in bridge is always figuring out if there's something about the hand that warrants not following the principles, or if you can afford to get extra chances. I think that's the general idea of how I could have got this hand right. But I also think it's first important to learn the principles. Like, of course, just identifying that it's a cross rough hand and following the general principles will lead to a good result on, you know, most hands, but not all of them.
Right. There's always breaking some of the rules to get big, big boards, and that's what we all strive to do. Those moments where we break the rules and it rewards us. So, yes, thank you so much, Kevin. This was an extremely beautiful board here, and the line that you found just left me in awe, and I hope it left our audience in awe as well. Let us know in the comments, do you think that you would have found this line? I know I certainly would not have. I was thinking about it in my head for 30 minutes after he posed it to me, and I was like, I'm not getting this. So let us know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to spread bridge. And Kevin, if there's anything that you would like to refer anyone to, please go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, so with my partner Amberlyn and Kai and lots of other great volunteers, I'm part of this Youth Bridge organization that I think we restarted last November-ish. And we hold Youth Bridge events every Friday. We also hold other pizza party events every month or so. So if you have a child that is somebody that's relatively young that wants to play bridge, most of our kids are more middle school, high school, elementary school age. But also, if you're a junior and are interested in playing bridge, we would love to have you.
Yeah, so I'll put a link into the description on the Silicon Valley Youth Bridge website. We're also known as Civi. So thank you for all of your volunteer work, and of course, I'm helping there as well. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
I'll see you at Silicon Valley Youth Bridge on Friday, I guess. So,
yeah.
Toodaloo.